welcome to another edition of Your Two Cents. And for today, we're going to be getting into the business of cars, the business of fixing cars, and the business models that people can actually place around work that's actually being done with your hands. For today, we are going to be chatting to Mawethu Soga. And he is one of the founders, to my understanding, of Fixxr. I think, if I was to give an elevator pitch, I would say that mobile mechanics, they will fix your car where you are. You don't have to go to them, they will come to you, right? Yeah, maybe you should tagline someone.
We'll send the bill.
So, no, greetings, Mawethu. How are you?
I'm great. Happy to be here today. Great to always talk about the story. A lot of the times you're always in the work, so sometimes you forget that there's actually some nuggets and some lessons that are sitting in there as well.
All right. So let's get into the business itself. We've just described it as, mobile mechanics, the ability to fix your car where the client or the customer is as opposed to them coming to you, right? I had an interesting situation. It must have been earlier in the year. No, it was late last year, right? I have this issue where periodically my car battery runs out, and I know the exact reason for it. But it happens almost like clockwork that the battery drains at some point. Usually, I'm able to get it jump started, and then I can go to a workshop, just get a new battery. Life goes on. But the most recent case, someone actually I found a person online. They came to my house.
Yeah.
They just asked what type of car is it so that they had the right one.
Yeah.
They came, replaced my battery, left, and I was like, this is such a great idea.
No, definitely. I think with anything in your household, let alone your car, we always live around the problem. If you need a spoon to open your door, you end up using the spoon consistently instead of just getting the guy to come in to do the work.
Yeah.
We see that a lot with clients with vehicles, and a majority of the time, yes, it's cost. I mean, we're all cash crunched, but then it's also the time and the convenience. So by us taking away that step where someone has to go somewhere and spend a few days and take a taxi back, they're now solving those problems a lot more quicker and a lot more conveniently. And we also now keep information on your car. We keep digital reports, keep mileage information. So we can also come back to you and saying, based on our data, it is likely that you need to replace this now, you need to replace that now. So you don't need to remember those things on your own. So we're almost the doctor that's in your face telling you to get that health check, to fix that broken tail light. But we have a lot of clients with the orange engine light, and they keep that on for years.
Yeah. Well, I think one of the most interesting things to me is the fact that we have, over the years, even decades, just acknowledged the fact that for service type businesses, if you can go to where someone is, there's a lot of advantage to that. I think your personal care type of businesses have probably done that the best. I'm talking people that are beauticians, hair, barbers, all of those types of service, they'll come to where you are, right? Mechanic services, they have call-outs. We see the cars, that are ready to go at a moment's notice on the side of the highway, all of that stuff. But on a typical level, right, how prevalent is the idea of someone just calling a mechanic and then them coming to your house? I guess what I'm trying to understand is what was missing in the market that you identified as the actual gap to say maybe this is something that we can place a model around.
Yeah. So I think it's more than one thing. The mobile is that leading level of convenience that's saving you time, but adding in transparency in our digital process. So we've built a platform, fixxr.co.za. You go in there. The first thing when you're looking for a particular problem, say I hear noise in the front of my vehicle, I see white smoke from the car. Our products and services are named like that. So you don't have these highly technical terminology that people are looking for. You can just sort of think what you're saying. I hear a gurgling sound in my engine, and we actually have the product's name for that. So it's easier for you to find your way, a lot more educational. And then you can do all these things safely online. It's a lot more transparent. So a lot of times when someone's working on your vehicle, diagnosing it and etc., they're going through the various steps and you might not know what's going on with the vehicle. From the moment we're on our way, from the moment we're touching the car, from when we finished and you receive a digital report, at each of these times you're feeling a lot more in control and empowered by this process in your vehicle. Now the fact that the chef in the kitchen is right there with you also allows you to engage, because how many times can you go to a workshop and actually speak to the individual that's fixing your car? 9 times out of 10, that is not something that's happened. He's working in the back somewhere.
Yeah,
You'll engage with your service consultants. So now the actual chef in the kitchen is someone who's serving you, engaging with you, talking to you. All these various problems you have, they can walk you through it. So you've got a lot more confidence and empowerment. So yes, we're selling convenience, but we're also selling that transparency of our process at the same time. So I think when those things come together and the digital platform, you then have a very strong service. I think the gap for us was just expertise. Fixing your car is quite an expensive process for most.
Yeah.
But the individual who's actually fixing your car is getting a smaller portion of that bill that you pay at your traditional workshops. So we're saying let's work with the actual expert who has 15 years of experience. And then let's come together and offer these services to car owners.
Yeah.
And then it's more affordable and easier. And we're sitting at a braai. One of my co-founders had a problem with his car, met a mechanic at a braai and said, I can fix it for you for half the price. Sorted him out. His turbo was blown. Then, as Curtis is, while he's sitting there, he's just like, wait a minute. If I can find more of these guys and bring them to the car owner, it's actually going to be a more affordable service for someone, and you're dealing with the individual. So a mechanic on our platform earns 3 times more than they'd earn in a normal workshop. So this is much nicer, because that rate per hour, 75% of it is going directly to you. There's no traditional workshop sitting there, and there's no service consultant sitting there. We only take 25% of that. So it's a bigger payday for you as well.
Right. It's a very interesting type business, and there's a lot that I'm identifying around it, a lot that I find is common even with, my own business. So I really like something like that. Out of interest, because just before we started recording, I think you mentioned the fact that you were working at a bank, right? Before that, right? What's that jump like? Going from, I'm wondering what word to use, what people consider professional services to what people would, I guess, term in their mind handy services.
Yes.
Right? Working with your hands versus, the white collar situation. Like, what was that jump like?
I think it's an extreme jump. I won't lie. I always say I consider myself a business professional more than an entrepreneurial professional more than a business owner a lot of the time.
I like that.
Because professional, yes. So I've been working in an environment. I've got those processes. I'm waxed and wane on how to work with the customer, work through these environments, work on the laptops. Now you're dealing with, and I always use the example of a chef cooking in the kitchen, because one of my co-founders, head of ops, always outlines that people are in the back room working with you, and they're trying to solve these various problems. I think it was very difficult to move from this professional environment where I can just solve something on the net or on my laptop to the service we're providing is this nitty-gritty product where a million things can go wrong. If the quality and the professionalism of the service is not there, even when it is there, you can maybe get a bolt wrong that you were meant to put back. And then even on top of that, there's the entire customer sitting on the other end. While before I was probably servicing and thinking about that strategically, but I wasn't dealing with it in all of the various processes. Sometimes you want to hide and run away from customers. Now that you're the entrepreneur in the space, I have to deal with these problems. I have to get shouted at, and then I have to deal with the ops as well. While in a corporate environment, there's a lot of other experts that are there helping hand you with you. So dealing things end to end was a bit tough. I can't run away from somewhere and say, no, let a consultant handle the customer. When a customer has an issue, I'm the lost buck in the process. So that was a bit tough.
Would you say that corporate experience helped you maybe to put together, whether it's systems, whether it's, I guess, whatever layers of systems you've been able to put behind Fixxr? Would you say your corporate life helped you in any way on that end, or have you relied on, I guess, best practice already? Because mechanics have been at it for a long time, and there's, ways in which that particular industry already works. Were you able to leverage anything from your past life into this, or have you sort of leaned on what's already, happening
Yes.
in the sector?
Well, I think we have a great, very mature automotive sector here in South Africa. So there's already a lot of best practice, a lot of knowledge in the system, a lot of regulation, which is great for someone who is process driven. You can then lean on that. I think with a lot of the work I was doing, I was customer facing in terms of building solutions. So what helped is then you can productize and add processes to that. You have a lot more machinery in your mind in how to deal with issues. So now you have to engage with, say, our mechanic partners and say, hey man, for the next 6 months, we're going to keep this product at this price. Say our diagnostic product was 40% at a 40% discount for a good year or so, while we get our product in the market, while we increase our acquisition, build up our customer base, then we'll put back the price to a normal level later. Help convincing someone of that takes a bit of time, but you understand what you're doing. You're bringing people into the system, you're getting positive reviews, and then after that, the quality of your service can now stand at the right value. So being able to understand that rather than then just going in and saying we're a workshop, we're worth this much, pay this month. We could have many other strategies that other businesses don't use when coming into the market. So I think definitely that corporate experience helped because we had a much more longer term view of our business than trying to make money in the short term, and a strong customer focus as well.
And can I confirm that from a platform point of view, are you directly employing any of the mechanics? Is this a gig economy type of situation where they get to register and they use it as a access to market type of platform? What's that arrangement like?
So we have a subcontracting format with the guys. So I mean, they still run their own businesses and they subcontract a set of services for us. Now that we've now opened up our workshop and we're getting our RMI accreditation, we're now then employing staff to be able to work in there at the same time. Then we still subcontract for our mobile services. So it has worked a great relationship. But then you get the strong amount of our mechanics that are getting a lot of services that our customers love ended up working for us 80% of the time at the end of the day. Because why? On a mechanic side, they don't need to deal with customer payments. They don't need to deal with marketing and booking. They receive the parts from us. We've got logistic providers, and then they just focus on doing what they love, and then they get paid for it. So we have more than a few mechanics that say, you know what, can you run the workshop side and just let me do the services, and then you run the payments and the bookings for me, and then we're good. So we're getting a lot more closer relationships like that, where it's almost like everyone here is employed at the end of the day. They work for Fixxr.
So, based on everything that you said and also some of the research I've done, I'm going to walk you through my understanding of how the Fixxr system works, and then you can fill in the blanks or tell me if I've gotten it completely wrong. So my understanding is, to use the earlier example, since it's a simple one, my battery has died on my car. I go to the platform and I say it's a simple enough problem. Car isn't starting, suspect is the battery, or there's the prompts and all of that stuff. It's there. In the back end, I'm guessing that someone is receiving that. What I'm not sure about is whether it's pre-diagnosed and whether there's a human being that sits and does the diagnosis and says this is what's likely the issue. Let's get someone with these types of parts to that person. That's the part I'm not 100% sure about yet, or whether because when you said prompts earlier on, it immediately made me think that maybe there's a pre-diagnosis type of process that's happening there. Then I'm able to make my payment online. You're able to have one of the mechanics that's registered on your system check availability. Can you guys go and deal with this person like in the next hour, 2 hours based on location? They come, they fix the car. Maybe they report back to you. I also report back to say yes, everything is sharp, and then at some point, I don't know whether guys are getting paid immediately or perhaps at the end of the month you collate all the payments owed to one person, and then you give them, you give that specific mechanic what's due to them. This is my understanding
Yeah.
of your business. Yeah.
No, I think it's close enough. A lot more smoother edges that we have over the time, but that is
Okay.
a simple process. So we have what's called probably the command center, and then we have what's called the brain, and I'll probably explain that. I mean, the platform that's facing, we've got over 300 pages that outline various problems with your vehicle and various issues that could be. So a car's not starting has very different decision trees. Smoke coming out of your engine based on the color and etc. has very different decision trees. But we don't want you to worry about that. But if you want to read up on it, it's there. You just press the information icon, or you go on the page, and you're able to read the necessary information. When you're telling us what's wrong with the car, you'll obviously be prompted for more information. When you provide that more information, it will come hit us in the back end. We need to know your car. We've got a significant amount of data. We've got hundreds and thousands of data on various cars and various issues that we've had. In our end, we'll then be able to say, okay, this is a car's not starting inspection. It costs X much. Are you cool with that? You pay a 50% deposit, and then we come to you within 2 to 48 hours, depending on how busy it is on that day. And then we conduct the job. There, the mechanic is going to go through everything with you, what he found on his visual inspection, and what he found on his diagnostic machine, and taking you through the vehicle. Then, even after he's spoken to you, he's also going to put that all into a digital report. We have a mechanic application. So the moment we book a job, an application goes out to our mechanics, and they accept or decline it based on proximity. So maybe it goes to you, Takunda, it goes to you, Wandile. Wandile accepts, he'll take on the job. The parts will arrive at his place during the day, and then he'll go do the job. Once he's done diagnosing the vehicle, he must feed back into the digital report to outline the issues. That scans everything back into the system and puts everything in a nice PDF for you. We'll also be able to tell you, yes, your car's not starting likely because of these issues, but we also check the rest of the car, and there are, we call them red, amber, green. There are red issues here, there are amber issues here, and there are green issues here. So then you can also understand the other issues, and then we go to the next steps on what's wrong with your car. So we'll be like, cool, this is a battery replacement, or the car's not starting because the starter's faulty, etc. And then we'll give you a new quote, and we start the process again. But that's sort of the simpler way. What we're building now, what we call the brain, is what we call Mac the Mechanic. So we started to feed in our own AI now, because we find people like to talk to people more. Yes, we have the platform and working through, but they still want to speak to Indira, to Tulani. So then we're saying, okay, let's build this conversation into the process. So we've built an AI bot called Mac the Mechanic, and he can now speak to the client. So now we're just teaching him to understand client issues and speak to you. But in the end, we believe this will be our main process. You'll speak to Mac, the mechanic, he'll engage with you, he'll diagnose your issues, and then he'll conduct the bookings for you in the end of the day. So our big dream is that Mac will actually be doing a lot of the work at the end of the day.
I'm guessing that Mac the mechanic is solving part of the scaling issue, right? Because I've spoken to a number of business people that have service-based businesses, and even in my own business, one of the things is how do you multiply yourself
Yes.
when everything is so relationship driven, and especially for something like a car. You know, people are very sensitive about their cars, especially. I'm guessing that especially I've spent some time working in a workshop before, so that's what some of the context I have. Some A lot of men think they understand cars.
Yes, yes.
So
It's so much worse when we have a female client and
yeah.
there's a husband hovering in the background.
Mm.
They'll be like, no, no, it's the carburetor's thing. We like, let the mechanic decide what the issue is, please.
Uh, uh.
We get that a lot.
So talk to me about the scaling piece,
Mm.
around that.
Definitely, Mac is there to help us scale. There's a lot of things in the process, but it's so much more difficult to solve nuance. For instance, let's not even talk about the hard problems. We're just trying to get the necessary information from you: your number, your email address, the vehicle, what's wrong with your car. But sometimes you're stuck in the process, and you can't get through this efficiently clicking the prompts. But when someone is talking to you, suddenly this information flows out and comes out a lot easier. So then Mac, instead of me coming in and calling and say, ma'am, sorry, the number is wrong or this particular issue, he can then take you through those various problems. Now he can do that to hundreds and thousands of people at the same time. We can only do that to a certain number of people at the same time. So for instance, now for our lead qualifications for leads are coming in, Mac is doing a lot of that work, saving everyone else time. So now we can focus more on analyzing the information more than inputting it. As well as with our digital reports, now we've utilized as well ChatGPT to take the report, transform it into information that makes sense, and then and then put the report in a way that the customer understands. Before, that would take us 30 minutes to an hour listening to the voice note of the mechanic, looking through the various information and inputting it. But now we can use AI to make that a lot more smarter. So it's more about saving us time. We never want to lose that personal aspect that's sitting there. But we can actually do a lot more analyzing the information than actually inputting it.
Yeah.
And that's what we want the computer to do, so that we can do more customer service calls, speaking to, engaging with the client, engaging with the mechanic, rather than spending time just punching information.
Okay, cool. Now, I like, the business it's been fascinating understanding the business, the genesis, and a lot of what you're coming out of, and especially using some of your corporate experience to underpin some of the systems that you've been able to put inside there. But one of my biggest curiosities is around competition, right? Mechanics, workshops, right? Whether they're independent, whether they're owned by your vehicle manufacturers or maybe even just your established dealer networks, there's so much competition, right, in the market. Talk to us about what competition looks like for you, and who's typically the person that is using Fixxr.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So very competitive environment. I mean, extremely. And as I say, South Africa is this very mature market. I just came from a trip now from Nigeria for Google for Startups Africa. Fixxr was one of the only startups chosen from Africa to go represent on that side of the world. You can see a lot of friction. Doesn't have the level of regulation that we have, issues with parts and sourcing, with skill and talent. While here we have a significant amount of skill and talent. Yes, the trade industry itself, I think it has a gap of about 50,000 skilled individuals that it needs. But you know where to find a mechanic if you're driving anywhere on a certain piece of road. The competitive environment, we love it because the real differentiator is on customer service and value and quality that you can bring. Because a lot of the people most of the times are working with machinery in their hands. They don't have the softer touch to deal and engage with the customers. And sometimes the consistent focus on this is a service-based business and customers come first. So we have over 500 reviews both on Google and Hello Peter, and we keep a 4.8 star rating. It's very important to us. When we were young, it was very difficult, but now it's a standing beacon of customers coming to us, because where do you go first? You go look on reviews. Now, that for me, and I always say to my clients, it's become such an easier conversation. Yes, the environment is competitive. Google us and Google them, and let's see what you think when you come back to that. So I no longer need to sell myself as much anymore. I can reference over 500 people who have said, this is the place to go. So I think that for me is become the real competitive advantage. Process, efficiencies, doesn't matter how convenient a service I can provide. If your car is not starting and it doesn't start the next day, that's what you're going to rate me on, not how sexy my platform is. So I think there's probably a lot of practices, not even guys trying to be negative in any way. They've just been trained to do things in a specific manner. I did my job. The fact that you're not happy doesn't matter. Give me my money, right? For us, we have a 6 months warranty. When there's a particular issue, we send out a mechanic again for free until that issue is solved, because we stand by the quality of our work. I'm not going to charge you again for that particular thing. Why? We understand customer service. That's not going to happen a lot of the times. But for the few clients that it happens for, we always say a bad experience is a great opportunity to build an ambassador. Because after that, they're like, say we get a 1-star review, for instance. Everything drops. The team comes together. We sit, huddle, mechanic shootout. We come to your office. We pull you out of the meeting and we sort out your car. After that, 5-star rating. You're like, no, these guys are crazy. Yeah, they're very serious. And that's literally how it is. Even if we get a 4-star review, we have a meeting. Where's our 1 star? It should have been 5. Hi, sir, madam. And guys will usually mention something very small. And the communication was a bit lax here, etc. Then we have a meeting and we sit on that process. How do we fix that communication? How do we maybe add automation, or does that need to be a human being? So I think that's the real differentiator.
Yeah.
The convenience helps you deliver it. The platform helps you coordinate it. But the real differentiator is doing things for your customers and doing them well. I still think that is a great differentiator in the market amongst competition.
No, it is, and especially the service-based types of businesses, your level of service becomes, I guess, how people judge you, from that. And that level of service is, another curiosity I always like to engage entrepreneurs on, especially platform types of businesses. How do you deal with disintermediation? Right. Disintermediation is basically the idea that if someone is found on a platform, but a private, non-platform relationship arises between a service provider and a customer, how does a platform ensure that you minimize those types of things? Because the customer and the service provider could take their relationship, out of the platform, which means the 25% that Fixxr would normally take is no longer, available to them.
Yeah, I mean, this happens to us a lot. We love the question. We get it from our investors and various investors that are looking to fund us a lot of the times. And we have a very simple answer to that. The moment you leave the confines of the platform, you lose the frameworks, the systems, the protocols, and the policies that are making that thing work. You are now dealing with the mechanic on your own. So if we had a mechanic, he did that on one of our platforms with the client. It was an engine rebuild job. I mean, that is a very, very great job. Guy's an expert. He does it for us all the time. But now when there's a particular issue or dispute, the dispute is just between you two. There isn't this company that's sitting there with its policies and its warranties that are sitting there. Client calls us and says, no, man, this particular mechanic, I'm still waiting my car for 5 days. I look on the system and I'm like, ma'am, I can't see any booking for this vehicle. No, I spoke to him on the side, and there was this particular issue. Then I'm like, ma'am, so continue on the side then. Why are you bringing me into the process now? You started something with a very clear view, and I always say I can't see your booking. You were trying to save yourself maybe some money or particular issue. Please continue in the same manner that you were dealing with, and then let it be fine. Look, for a lot of the times, I do feel bad, and then we come help. We're like, hey man, what's going on? Where's the vehicle? Where's the car? But a lot of times, that's literally the same thing that saves us. Now leave the customer side. Let's also go to the mechanic side. Yes, you take a deal on the side. But now when a customer is screaming at you, when a customer has a particular issue, when a customer doesn't want to pay you, you again are now sitting in the frameworks of your environment. If there's legal recompense that you need to, calming down the client, you now need to do that on your own. So the same thing with the mechanic. Deal with the client the same way you were dealing them before. No one understands that this coordination job that's happening in the middle is actually very important to the process. Otherwise, you would not have been here anyway. You would have gone to the mechanic that you were at. So we always say, if you go on the side, stay on the side.
I know I said savage, but I 100% agree with you. To say, if you want to deal on the side, then stay there. Don't bring me into the group chat when things
It's so strange. And you have a long-time client, and then they'll have a particular issue. And I'm saying this is really bad. And I mean, we're very young in the business. We've got soft hearts, but we've learned to just be a lot harder on the line. So that it shows everyone that there's a reason this business exists. And to be honest, you're really not saving money, right? Because time is also money at the same time. Repeats of various services are money at the same time. That quality saves you a lot more money in the long run. I mean, at most, you're probably saving a few hundred at a time, maybe 1,000 here and there, at most. But you're going to spend more in the long run. With frustration or other issues that might come about.
Nice. It's quite a huge issue, and I know a lot of platform businesses, face that particular issue. But at the end of the day, you need to. The youth say you stand on business.
Stand on business. I love that.
To the extent that you know that your platform is on that level where without the platform, there's just things that you're missing. You're not getting the full, you're not getting the full experience. Now, Mr. Soga, before we let you go, I want us to attack two particular points, and then I think we would have had a really great discussion. The first one is your relationship to money, right? One of the purposes around this platform is encouraging conversations about business, the economy, money, that type of thing. What has informed your relationship with money, right? Your personal relationship with money, and how has that manifested
Mm.
in how you conduct business?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, like they say, an accountant's books are a very bad place to go to, but the books of their clients are great. You know, and I was a banker in my time, so not the greatest with managing your own finances, greatest with making the money, but on the business end, you know you have a much more a stronger focus on keeping things tight. But I think it's definitely helped me to understand. How customers work. I'm focused on wealth creation. So even when I look at business, I'm focusing on the overall value of the business and how much have we grown the value of this business, how much new services and products and business lines that we're bringing in. That's probably my focus more. While my other two co-founders, they'll have a much more stronger focus on the operational side. But even their personal finances are also a lot more tighter on that front. So we all have that different view. But I think what's lucky with us, there's three of us with three different personalities, three different money personalities. I'm the spender in the
I was
business.
about to ask if you're the spendthrift.
I'm the spender. I'm the spender. I'm not the thrifty guy.
Yeah.
So I'm the guy doing the marketing campaigns, doing the discounts. I'm in the office and I'm buying the arcade machine. That's why I am in the business. So I bring the fun, I bring the vibrancy and the environment. And my business partners are doing everything in their power to stop me from from killing the purse. But it's great because then I push for the riskier stuff while they hold the business strong. So then we have that balance. You don't have, if it was all up to me, all the money would be gone by now. If it was all up to them, it would never be spent. So now that we have that balance of personalities, we now have a business that has the positives and the negatives of both. Yeah.
You know, speaking about your mindset around money, Thomas J. Stanley wrote a very interesting book called The Millionaire Next Door. Decades-long study on, various affluent people. And one of the findings in that study is that a lot of people that have gone into business, entrepreneurs, typically don't want their offspring or their kids to be entrepreneurs. Where do you stand on that debate?
No one should do this. Stay in school, finish that, go work, stay in that job, and never do this. I think probably, I've worked at the heights of corporate in my 8-year career, and this is still one of the hardest things I've ever done. There's nothing worse than every second, every moment of the day has some numerical ROI that's sitting with it. Even when I'm coming here to sit with you today, I have to think about something else that I'm not doing, but how am I going to maximize this opportunity to make us more money in the long run? Living your life like that consistently is quite tough. And the scary thing is no matter how much you put in, no matter how much you do, I always say you don't get to decide what is enough. The market gets to decide that. And you can put in every single thing that you have, all your blood, sweat, and tears, but this business can still fail, right? Because it is a risky opportunity. So I definitely would not want it for my kids, or at least the businesses and the legacy we built will be a lot more smooth and up in shape where they can take it and grow it. Similar like if they went to go work for a corporate. But starting from scratch, I would hope not.
I'm still deciding, where I actually sit in this debate. At some point, I was all for, well, if you've been an entrepreneur, then you're probably the best person to teach the next generation of entrepreneurs. But as you now go through life, you begin to understand, I guess, the mindsets that all of those parents that will be taking part in this study are going through. No one wants their kids to suffer the way that they did.
Yes.
Right? And if there's some way you can smooth out the life of the next generation, then that's the position you're going to do. And I guess in a lot of cases, just going to school, like what you said, becoming a professional, maximizing on that end, then becomes the quote unquote safer option.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it is an interesting one.
I think
Yeah.
the difference then can be, let me play maybe devil's advocate to my own idea, is you can probably give them a better playbook
Yes.
than I guess you had.
Yeah.
Like I always say to people, give me a third of the money that I had and a third of the time, and I could get where I am now
Nice.
than what I did in the 6 years from what you've learned. How to pull the levers better, how to find the levers better. You kind of like, you spent a lot of time just figuring all of that out. So you can give a much smoother playbook. And as well as you have more of the networks now and the support systems, you can probably give them a more different environment. Which is why even now we do a lot of evangelical work. We are in different communities. For instance, I'm in Darkies and Tech, where I work with 400 black tech founders, and we work to make the ecosystem more conducive to black tech founders as well. So you're at least laying the groundwork that maybe they will then benefit from,
Yeah.
where it will be a better environment. So maybe that is the way where you make the landing a bit softer.
Okay. No, it makes perfect sense, and I think this point helps us with where I want to end the conversation. The last point is around, I guess, the types of careers that people can get themselves into, right? You've had exposure to the corporate sector as a banker. You've had exposure to, I guess, starting your own business from scratch as an entrepreneur. But because of the type of business that you are running, you've also had exposure to the trades, right? Some people look down on trades, right? But I think, and funny enough, once again referencing Thomas J. Stanley, he actually found that a lot of millionaires in a place like the United States are people that have come out of the trades. It's just that it doesn't happen quickly. It's one of those things that just happens over time, like a really long time. Plumbers, electricians, firemen, all of those types of careers and professions, those people, as long as they're disciplined, live below their means, then they tend to do very well. By the time they get into their 50s, they're very well off, right? It's not flashy. I know that, the black community sort of romanticizes, go be a doctor, a lawyer, accountant, this type of thing. So I was hoping to end today's discussion, since we're talking to the youth, with your view about, the opportunities for people that, around the trades.
I think, to be honest, trade should be our number one focus as a country and a continent. We have a skills shortage in the environment, but we want to do all these amazing things to transform our economy. We'll ask the government, why do we source gold but we don't beneficiate it and the like. Who's going to do that, right? Who's going to have the boiler makers? Who's going to build the machines? Who's going to be the technicians on them, right? Who's going to build the water pipelines that are sitting there and the like? So the trade sector is the one that's supposed to do that. And if you don't have it, we then need to import it, right? We have to get it from China, we have to get it from Russia and elsewhere. The people that have done the work and have stronger trade sectors. I mean, if you look now, there's a lot of guys going overseas to Australia and the like, because there's a great need for that. Alan Gray's also got now the Makers Fest, where they're working with TVET colleges to grow these trade industries. What I've learned now is, the moment I see someone with dirty hands, I always ask them what they're doing, because there's a lot of money in there. I think more importantly, you can't lose that skill. The years that come with it add over time. He can go look at your car, take 30 seconds, diagnose the problem, and do it correctly. He's built up such a strong, base and quality of knowledge. A plumber, etc. They're worth their weight in gold. So over the years, you'll start slow, you'll start tough, but it's so easy to say, the skill that I have is worth X amount in the market, and the more years I put in, that grows. And we've got a significant shortage. We've got a lot of transformation that's needed in the space. And I don't want to speak to mechanics only. There's plumbing, there's electrical work, boiler making, manufacturing, all that. There's an entire place there that's sitting, that's waiting for us to take part of. There can only be so many accountants. There can only be so many lawyers. So where are the rest of us going to go? There's other segments of the economy. I even like to say to individuals now, you start seeing by grade 9, grade 10 already where your son or daughter is leaning towards. If he's a lot more technical, a lot more with his hands, send him to a TVET college even. Leave the university track. He's already destined for another one. Make that decision quickly. So even by that time, that 18, 21, he's already 5 years in the game. So he starts off shooting. I wish if we could do a lot more of that a lot younger, we'd see that there's a lot more opportunity in the market. And I think we'd also find a lot more jobs that's sitting in there. So I don't think we're going to solve this job problem in the service industry. And you're going to be a lot more hit in the service industry, in the professional industries, with improvements in technology and the like, than you will in the trade environment. It's got a lot more staying power. Yes, we'll get there. Businesses like mine or work in the technology, but we more enable you in the space more than take you out there. While in the professional environment, the more that happens, those cuts are a lot bigger, you know, at the same time. So I would say everyone should do what they're good at. But a lot of the times what you're good at is defined by perception more than the actual skills that you have. You know, I always say, follow your gifts, not your passions. Your passions will lie to you. But what are you actually good at? You know, Sipo's good with these hands. And female mechanics, female tradesmen, better with their hands. They understand spatial reasoning. TVET, let's send them already. Now suddenly that kid that was struggling to get that 60% to get into university is excelling now. Because he was, you know, when you judge a fish by climbing a tree, they always fail. But now you put him in water and he's suddenly swimming. So I think, yes, trade industry for me, I'm all about it. Great ambassador of it. Done a lot of work as well with Alan Gray pushing the trade industry. I think it's a strong future in the country and the continent as well.
All right. So on that, note, I think that's a good place for us to end off today's discussion. I'm looking forward, for us to continue engaging. I think there's a lot of great gems that have come out of today's discussion. I think for me, if there's three biggest takeaways, the first one is the fact that careers can pivot. I think that's the word I'm going to use, pivot. Careers can pivot. Just because you see someone in a particular light today does not necessarily mean that that's where they'll end up. Mawethu was a banker, but now, you find yourself in entrepreneurship and not even in professional services. So there's a lot that people can do. And as someone who's a geek myself, it's great to see how technology is being used to enable, something like that to underpin a service that has decades, in the making. But now you guys have come with a different way of looking at what's there, and I guess that underpins the service sector, not service sector, service bit that you mentioned earlier on. And I think that's the second piece that I wanted to, highlight, over there, to say that there's a lot that can be said about just differentiating yourself by offering the best type of customer service. Certainly not something to scoff at. Certainly not something to take, for granted. And it reminds me, my dad always used to say that your reputation is the most important and most valuable thing. And then I think lastly, just that conversation around the trades and the opportunity, especially as we try to solve this unemployment crisis. I really do think that we could be doing more to encourage people that, guys, it's not always, this path that is going to do well. There's a lot of money to be made, in the trade. So really appreciate that. So that was it for today. It has been a really great discussion. Thank you so much. We're talking to Mawethu Soga. He is a co-founder of Fixxr, and we really appreciate him for coming in and sharing his 2 cents.